Have you ever had to train new guys, and how do you feel about it? This is a great question. I'm currently training the new guy at my work and was curious if you've ever had to do it. Do you have the patience for training someone new? Are you able to tell if someone has the skills for the job or if they probably won't work out? And last, how do you feel about new guys or anyone in the shop using or borrowing your tools? This may be slightly different in your industry, as you can go to school to learn to be a tech. I build law enforcement vehicles and there isn't much training available, at least here in Canada. We usually train up the new employees, right from the basics to being a great installer. Alex, this is an awesome question. So, do I have any experience training the new guys? Yes, I've been doing it for over 10 years now, in some way, shape, or form, right? This is not an easy thing, and it can be incredibly hard. It can test your patience to the absolute maximum. But boy, if you can get these new guys to get it and learn and teach them and learn how to teach them, dude, it's such an awesome, rewarding feeling. You can take a guy who went to tech school or didn't, teach them the things that you know, and make them become a really great technician, an average technician, or a crap technician. A lot of this depends on you, and a lot, even more, depends on them. I usually tell them, look, I am going to put this much more, right, there we go, this much more effort into training you than you are. That means if you're going to give it all you got, I'm going to give it all I can give you. If you're going to half-ass it, I'm going to half-ass it. If you're going to come in and not give a crap, well, you probably won't last long enough for me to really be concerned about it, so sayonara. It's tough though, man. It's tough to take someone that it's even hard when you got the perfect trainee, right? I've had guys that would be considered the perfect trainee, and there's still times where it's challenging. Then I've had the opposite end of the spectrum. Guys that couldn't fix a sandwich, spent a ton of money at tech school and couldn't figure out how to reverse the rotation of an impact gun to tighten something instead of loosen something. So it's all into the spectrum. How do we figure out what to do with these guys, right? You really need to come into this with a system, with a plan. Okay, Mondays are going to be for this. Tuesdays are going to be for this. Wednesdays are going to be for this. I really like to get a schedule together for that. Now, sometimes the schedule is just up here. With our job, and probably a lot with you, we're at the mercy of what comes in the door. So while I may want to work on electrical problems today, we may only have drivability problems or suspension problems. So we're a little bit at the mercy of what comes in the door, but it's still all building. It's building skill set. It's building a mentality. We work on flat rate system here too, so it's building confidence in getting these jobs done. It's twofold, right? It's about slowing them down so they're doing the basics 100% perfect. And it's about keeping them motivated, because a lot of guys want to jump right in and start fixing cars, and there's a lot more to it than that. So figure out your new guy, right? Does he have any skills? Can he do a wiring repair? Can he solder? Can he make a splice? Can he read a wiring diagram? And build off of that. Work on what they're good at, and also sprinkle in hints and tips and tricks on what they're bad at. Once we figure out a guy has some aptitude and can turn a wrench and knows how to operate a screwdriver, we really put the screws to him. We put a lot of pressure on him. And this is for a couple of reasons. One, I want to see what motivates them and what demotivates them, right? What breaks them? What is the thing that crushes their confidence, which is usually not fixing a car right? I also want to give them the exposure to all of the hardest possible jobs before they go on flat rate. If they can unwind their way out of these really hard jobs while they're not worried about a paycheck, this gives them the confidence to do it. They've already done it. So now when they're on flat rate, hustling, trying to beat the clock, they know, look, I can get out of this. I'm not going to sink. It's not going to crush my week. So you have to really, really, really challenge them in a way that's probably going to make you feel uncomfortable, and is definitely going to make them feel uncomfortable. You're really not going to know whether they have the skills or not until you challenge them, until you push them, and then you can build off of that. So it's really not easy, man. This is one of the hardest things about what I've done over the last several years, for me anyway, because you have to be that kind, patient, understanding person. You kind of gotta be a jerk sometimes because you need to make sure that they know that you have a standard for them. Your standard for them probably is higher than their own standard until they learn what their standard is, and then they can rock and roll on their own. And again, I've had guys that have become incredibly great technicians and have worked incredibly hard to get to where they're at, and other guys where you just had to let them go, and hopefully they're doing something else in a different industry because they really didn't have the chops to make it as a big boy technician. Now, as far as borrowing tools, this can be a touchy subject. I go from no one's borrowing anything to borrow whatever you want. It really all depends. I'll typically let everybody borrow anything they want, especially new guys, because I don't want them to have to crack 5 grand on buying tools before they've turned one wrench. I'll typically let them work out of my roll cart till they get the stuff that they need. But you also don't want them to take advantage of it. You want to make sure that if they're borrowing your stuff, they're bringing it back clean, or at least the way they found it. If you keep your tools dirty, that's fine too. Bring it back the way they found it. Where they got it from, undamaged. If they break something, let you know. If it's now an experienced technician and they're just too cheap or lazy or whatever to buy it, eventually I get to the point where I start collecting. You know, it'll cost you $5 to borrow this tool. I don't get there often. It's usually only when I'm in a mood or someone's brought a bunch of my tools back broken or a bunch of my stuff's missing. Then I start collecting money. But for the most part, man, if you're in a leadership role in your shop, you have to do some things that may not, make you super comfortable, and borrowing out tools is kind of one of them. So just make sure they understand that you have an expectation of them with your tools. Clean, neat, organized, and bring it back at the end of the day. I don't want to have to come hunting for my tools. That's a good way to get me to not let you borrow something. So, man, great questions. Good luck to you. This is a learning experience and a learning journey for you as much as it is a trainee. So just keep that in mind when you get frustrated, that it's a learning experience. And when you get to that point where they get it, it's incredibly, incredibly, incredibly rewarding.